What did any of that have to do with dinosaurs? Not a clue. How's it going, everyone? I am the Raging Raven, and well, this has been something that I really wanted to do for quite some time. This is Paleontology in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think I need to work on that name a little bit. Regardless though, what the series is that I'm going to be looking at the past animal life on this planet and see how they incorporated well into the card game, some of which have been incorporated fairly well, others not so much. But that's besides the point. We're going to look at all of these cards and see how well they are represented from their actual counterparts. And to start off this episode, I don't think there's any other animal that would be best enough for possibly an episode like this than our fateful Tyrannosaurus itself. Before the KT mass extinction 66 million years ago, yes, it's 66, not 65, the top predator of the time period at the Hell Creek was our very own Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, this thing in particular definitely deserves the name the Tyrant Lizard King, primarily because he speared himself so far away from the usual path that the theropod dinosaurs usually followed, and entered a more interesting hunting pattern. To put things simple, imagine a grounded crocodile. What do I mean by that? Well, a crocodile has a pretty ferocious bite, and this thing dwarfs a crocodile's bite. So, yeah. But which cards in the trading card game resembles the Tyrannosaurus perfectly? Well, we're going to be looking at 4 of them. The Black Tyranno, the Superconductor Tyranno, Ultimate Tyranno, and then Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Since we're going to be looking at all 4 of these cards, I don't think it particularly matters which order I tackle them in, but I'm going to be leaving Ultimate Conductor till last, primarily because it seems like he has the most in common. That being said, let's have a look at Black Tyranno's design and his card text and see how things start off with him. Upon first viewing of Black Tyranno, it's easy to tell that this one, out of all the Tyranno monsters, looks closest to an actual T-Rex. The head shape is correct, the body shape is correct, the arms, almost there. But where his effect lies in, how on earth does that crawl into the synopsis of this guy representing the T-Rex? Well, let's have a look at things. His effect is pretty much as simply as followed. If the only cards your opponent controls are defense position monsters, this card can attack directly. How is that relevant? Well, I'll tell you. The T-Rex's game was always big games. Ankylosaurus, a Triceratops, Alamosaurus, pretty much all of these big dinosaurs were around during the time of the T-Rex, and the T-Rex had to make sure that it takes them down and just ignores everything else in its path. So the monsters, if your opponent controls defense position monsters, are nothing but small game animals in comparison to this big bastard. The opponent is pretty much the prey item for this guy. But that's a little bit boring, isn't it? That's all that this guy has got going for. So, how do the others translate well to the T-Rex? Let's have a look. Superconductor Tyranno practically has almost nothing in common with a natural Tyrannosaurus. Why on earth does this guy have a title of Tyranno anyways? I get the futuristic tech and all that, but honestly, just no. The guy hardly even looks like a Tyrannosaurus anyways. He looks like he's more along the lines of what could have been a Allosaurus or a Giganotosaurus. But he's classified as a Tyranno, so we have to look at him. Anyways, is he a good representation? No. No. Only thing big about him is his attack power. Not even his effect is translated well as a Tyranno as well. You tribute a monster to inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent, and he cannot declare an attack. There's nothing in common with this and a Tyranno at all, except for the name state. Now, to be fair, there are some Tyrannos that have been confirmed to have 3 fingers, and to have a resemblance a little bit similar to Giganotosaurus, Allosaurus, and all that sort of stuff, known as Yutyrannus, for instance. But even then, even he is more of a Tyrannosaurus than this guy is. So, at the moment, Superconductor Tyranno is nowhere near close enough to our standards of a Tyrannosaurus. Now that I think about it, I should have started off with this guy, then jumped to Black Tyranno. What about Ultimate Tyranno? We're having similar problems with Ultimate Tyranno in comparison to Superconductor Tyranno in terms of overall image. I mean, just look at this. This does not scream Tyrannosaurus whatsoever. I can get the random spines coming off of him every now and then, but if we take his overall shape, this does not say Tyrannosaurus. That looks more like a Giganotosaurus. But to be fair, let's have a look at his effect. His effect pretty much states as follows, that it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Plus, at the same time, if your opponent enters a battle phase, the only monster they're allowed to attack is Ultimate Tyranno. Although I don't get why they put an effect like that on a level 8 3000 attacking monster. This is just weird. So how well does this translate to? Well, it translates very bestly to Tyranno's capableist factor of being able to fight in the Hell Creek formation. Some of you may be thinking to yourselves, nah, the Tyrannosaurus couldn't fight. It's a scavenger, isn't it? If you say that in front of a paleontologist, they will literally tear you to pieces. Why is it that they'll do such a thing? Well, simple. The Tyrannosaurus lived a brutal life. There's way too much evidence that indicates that the Tyrannosaurus was more brutal to itself than it was others. So that alone kills off a scavenger statement. But what else can kill the scavenger statement? I mean, if an animal like the lion can go around just scavenging on everything that's in his path, there would be no need for it to hunt, right? You'd be correct. Because in order for the lion to compete with other animals, it has to literally outbrute everything in its path. And at the same time, there has to be other predators that had to try and compete with the animal. So in other words, in order for an apex to exist, there have to be other predators competing with it. So you can possibly maybe think to yourself, but still, Hell Creek only had the T-Rex, right? That's all that it needed, right? And pretty much by itself, the T-Rex was so big that it could pretty much snatch anything from anyone, right? Wrong. Thanks to one recent discovery of a very, very, very frightening ghost. A ghost of Hell Creek, to put it perfectly honest. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dakotaraptor. The Dakotaraptor was pretty much one-to-one size of a velociraptor seen in the Jurassic Park movies, so yeah, fairly intimidating. What makes it worse is that it's good enough to tackle the T-Rex. So because of that, the T-Rex not only had size on its aspect, but it also had brute force. But the Dakotaraptor? It doesn't even care about that. It'll fight until its end. Pretty much any big animal that was going up against the T-Rex in this time period had to pretty much outcompete the T-Rex in order to get the food in its path. And the only way for the T-Rex to survive was to literally fight back. One final aspect that I want to, well, two actually, that I want to bring up was two factors. Number one, its prey items, and number two, the jaws. Why the jaws? Well, think about it. What point is a predator on having a 5-ton crush power with little arms? All it needed was its jaws. One bite, take down, break the neck, that's it. That's literally the hunting pattern for the Tyrannosaurus. That's literally everything that it does. And when it had to take on huge prey items like all these three, it's pretty much easy to see why the T-Rex had to be a fighter through and through. So you possibly be thinking to yourselves, well, Raven, that still doesn't prove that the T-Rex was a hunter, right? Wrong. There have been multiple fossil findings of the Hell's Creek dinosaurs, including Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, and even some of the hadrosaurs that were there at the time. I believe a hadrosaur was called Edmontosaurus, if I recall correctly. Some of the fossils of these guys that have been found have weird scars on their bones. And these bones were interestingly scarred. Think about it like this. Why would a Triceratops have those horns? Are they just for display or are they just for fighting things? Well, think about it like this. Why would a wildebeest have any horns? They look like they're for display purposes, right? But on a lion, they can literally just flick a lion off of them. So, why is it that the Triceratops has them? Simple. A Triceratops needs to flick at the T-Rex in order to get it away. Simple as that. But at the same time, those scars that I've been mentioning, two reasons. Number one is that the Triceratops often went horn to horn with each other, not as a act of intimidation or trying to gain territory, or for trying to find a mate. For practice. If a Triceratops locked horn to horn with each other, that helps them actually with the advantage with trying to fend off T-Rexes. How do I know this? There have been literally scars on Triceratops that have been found bearing bite marks from some of the biggest tyrannosaurs out there, and they somehow lived to tell the tale. Yep, you heard me right. Triceratops fossils found that showed clear indications of healing. And it's the same thing with a hadrosaur as well. A hadrosaur bone was found with a huge chunk taken out of it, and it showed healing signs. As well, at the same time, a bone from Y-Rex, one of the Tyrannosaurus specimens, was found. It had healing symptoms on it. Finally, there's the newest boy on the block, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this guy. So, how well does he fit the niche of being a Tyrannosaurus representative? Well, let's have a good look at him. For starters, his artwork, it's a little bit questionable. I don't know, I just don't think I'm a fan of the whole kaiju aesthetic design of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. I mean, it looks like an old Osborne it looks like one of those old Tyrannosaurus paintings before they actually got updated. But let's disqualify that for a sec and actually look at what makes this guy tick. For starters, his stats. He's a huge bastard, and rightfully so. Again, a Tyrannosaurus is known for fighting. Reason number 2, he has the same effect as Ultimate Tyranno when he has to fight everything. Now, logically at the same time, he doesn't have the same effect that the opponent has to fight him in return, but he has to fight everything. And once again, if you've already seen what I said about Ultimate Tyranno when it comes to the T-Rex having to be a fighter through and through, you already know that, yep, this guy is going to be one hard-to-beat bastard. But at the same time, his effect is a complete similarity of all the other past Tyrannosauruses in Yu-Gi-Oh! Comprised into him. Think about it, the defense position aspect of Black Tyranno, the fighting aspect of Ultimate Tyranno, and Superconductor Tyranno's aspect. To go back to the summoning requirements, this guy has to be summoned by banishing 2 dinosaurs from your graveyard. And you don't even see his announcement in the hand, he just hits the board straight away and he's there. Like an actual Tyrannosaurus, you never hear them coming. And before you even ask, yes, that is true, you can never hear a Tyrannosaurus walking towards you. They have special padding within their heels to help them withstand all the weight being pressed down. Not technically the heels, but you get the point. To put things bluntly simple, his weight is supported so well that you can never hear the T-Rex coming. A stealth predator like this, heck, any predator at all, needs stealth and silence in order to get around. So what good is a predator if it stomps its way towards you? Exactly, everyone who keeps on saying in that one scene in Jurassic Park where the T-Rex just suddenly pops up out of nowhere and why they didn't hear it coming. No, that makes more sense than hearing the booms in the official scene where the T-Rex comes from. This Tyranno is the evolution of all the Tyrannos. The final member of the species, literally the title Tyrannosaurus Rex for him. What else makes him all the more terrifying? Well, like I said, he can attack everything, and everything is practically worthless underneath his feet as soon as he gets a good hold of you. That in amongst itself is already terrifying. But there's one other aspect of his effect that actually comes in. His special blow-up effect that lets him destroy any monster on your field or in your hand to set everything face down. Sounds terrifying, yes? Oh, yes it is. Would you believe me if there's something that a T-Rex can do that is actually similar to this one-to-one? Oh, I think you'd be more than surprised. So, what is this thing that I am on about? How is it that his special blow-up effect, that actually blows up a monster on the field or in the hand, sets everything, and 1,000 burn at the end of it all, how is that effective on any form of T-Rex? Picture this. You're in Hell's Creek. Everything is all fine and dandy, you're just minding yourself, that's this little water hole. It's not good enough to support any big dinosaur, but it's good enough to support yourself. You tuck it into a nice piece of fruit that you found nearby any form of bush. Seems to be alright, you're enjoying it through and through. And you notice that there's nothing around. You can't hear anything pop up. You still hear nothing. Absolutely nothing. But then you get this unsettling feeling crawling up your spine, through your arms, your legs, and even your head. It's a certain sound that you're hearing. Or is it a certain sound that you're feeling? Or is it both? This sound is indescribable. It's not a growl, but at the same time it's hardly even a hiss. It acts more like a boom. You keep on hearing it more and more and more. And you realize that this low sounding boom, this uncomfortable feeling, is paralyzing you in place. You try to look around, but you see nothing. You look behind you, and you see a pair of Tyrannosauruses booming at each other. They're hardly even opening their jaws. They're just making noises that are just exiting their mouths and reckoning with each other. They're scanning the area, and they suddenly notice you. The booming has you paralyzed in place as they observe you. Are you worthy enough prey for them? Or are you just nothing but a flea to them? They leave you be because they know that you're not going to feed the two of them. But that boom is still unsettling. Especially knowing the fact that even after they left, the paralyzing feeling of a boom remains there. What was that booming, you may be wondering? What is that a Tyrannosaurus can do? That, believe it or not, was their cry. A certain cry known as closed-mouth vocalization. Yep, the T-Rex can't roar. There's been many videos on YouTube showing the actual communication standards of a Tyrannosaurus, so they're not that hard to find. In fact, I might as well have used them in this video for demonstration purposes. So there you have it. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno right here pretty much is a perfect representation of T-Rex. Even though I have looked at all of the other Tyrannosauruses up until now in Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, all except one, being Tyranno Infinity, and I'm not including any of the machine Tyrannosauruses either, I'm just looking at actual ones that are listed as dinosaurs. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is literally the quintessential card game of T-Rex. Show me something else I can do something one-to-one with a T-Rex. And will you stop acting like a jet engine? So there you have it. Paleo in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to be working on that title, aren't I? This is a series that I'm going to be planning on doing an awful lot on this channel. Hopefully a lot more than what I originally intend, because Paleontology, one of my favourite things out there, and especially when it's represented well in the card game like this, I'm all up for it. Heck, I'm going to be looking at other cards that have been released throughout the time period of Yu-Gi-Oh! As well, just to see if there are any other Paleontology-based cards that have been represented well in Yu-Gi-Oh! I am aware that there's only like a few raptor cards, but still at the same time, they're raptors that I can look at nonetheless. And there are other cards like Miscellaneousaurus, although to be quite frankly fair, that's an amalgamation of different fossils, so it's not necessarily worth it. Giant Rex, who I have obviously not included because that's not a T-Rex, that's a Spinosaurus, and many others. But that is it for me. I have said what I needed to say. I bid you all adieu.